The fuel light flicked on. 30 miles left. I cursed under my breath. I was somewhere deep in New Mexico, driving down a lonely stretch of highway with no towns, no houses, nothing but desert and road. I should have topped off at the last truck stop, but I'd been too tired to think straight. Now, I was paying for it. I flipped through my GPS, looking for a station. Nothing for another 40 miles. Too far. I was already running on fumes. Then, like an answer to my problem, I saw it. A gas station, sitting just off the next exit. Small, old, but open. I should have kept driving, because by the next morning, that gas station didn't exist. I pulled in and parked at the only working pump. The place looked like it had been there forever. A faded red sign stood over the lot, the letters too worn to read. One of the fluorescent lights above the door buzzed loudly, flickering every few seconds. A single attendant stood behind the counter inside. I could see him through the window. He wasn't moving, just standing perfectly still, staring at me. I stepped out of the cab, rubbing the exhaustion from my eyes. The air was thick. No wind, no sound, just a heavy stillness. The pump rattled as I lifted the nozzle. No card slot. Prepay inside. I glanced at the attendant again. He was still watching me. I hesitated. Then, forcing down the uneasy feeling in my gut, I went in. The bell above the door jingled, but the man didn't react. He just stood behind the counter, stiff as a mannequin. His skin looked pale, wax-like. I cleared my throat. "Hey, I need a full tank." Nothing. His glassy eyes didn't blink, didn't move, didn't even register that I'd spoken. A chill crept up my spine. I was about to repeat myself when he tilted his head, not like a normal person, like something imitating human movement. And then, in a voice that sounded too deep, too slow, he finally spoke. "You shouldn't be here." My stomach dropped. "What?" I forced a nervous laugh. The attendant didn't blink, didn't move, just stared at me. "You need to leave." I swallowed hard. "Look, man, I just need some gas. Then I'll be on my way." Silence. Then, "You don't understand." His voice lowered to a whisper. "You need to leave before they come back." A cold wave of dread crept up my spine. "Who?" Before I could ask, the store lights flickered. A deep, electric hum filled the air. And then, from behind the aisles, I heard footsteps. Slow, dragging, coming toward me. I ran, didn't look back, didn't care how crazy I looked. I bolted out the door and into the night. But the second I stepped outside, everything was different. The gas station looked older, like it had been abandoned for years. The paint was peeling, the windows cracked and dirty, the buzzing light above the door, barely flickering. I turned to my truck. It was still there. But now, the pump was rusted and broken, like it hadn't worked in decades. I spun back to the building. The attendant was gone. I stepped forward, peering through the window. The store was empty. No counter, no aisles, no sign that anyone had ever been inside. My breath came fast. I checked my phone. No service. I turned toward the highway, expecting to see the exit I'd taken. But the road was gone. Just endless, dark desert. Like the gas station had been cut off from the world. And I was trapped. A faint knocking snapped me out of my thoughts. It was coming from inside my truck, from the passenger door. I turned my head slowly and saw something that made my blood run cold. A handprint, pressed against the glass. I climbed into the cab, locking the doors. The air felt wrong, heavy, like something was sitting beside me. I reached for the ignition, but when I looked down, there was a Polaroid on my dashboard. I picked it up with shaking hands, and when I saw what was in the picture, my stomach dropped. It was a photo of me, standing at the counter, talking to the attendant, but in the background, between the aisles, something was watching me. I don't remember leaving. One second, I was staring at the picture. The next, I was waking up at a rest stop. The engine was running. The fuel tank was full. I checked my clock. 6 hours had passed. I didn't remember any of it. And the worst part? There was no gas station on my route. Nothing but desert. Like it had never been there at all. I asked the next guy I saw about an old station off the highway. His face went pale. "Son," he said slowly, "that station burned down 30 years ago." I don't stop for gas in the middle of nowhere anymore. I don't drive that stretch of road, because I know now, there are places on the highway that don't exist, and if you pull in at the wrong time, you might not either. I don't pick up hitchhikers, not because I don't want to help people, but because I know better. Any long-haul trucker will tell you, there are things on the road that don't belong. Some of them look like people, and if you stop for them, you might not make it to your destination. It was about 3 in the morning when I saw him. A lone hitchhiker, standing on the shoulder of a highway in West Texas. He was tall, thin, dressed in dark clothes. No bag, no flashlight, no car in sight. Just standing there, waiting. His face was turned away, hidden by the shadow of his hood. As I got closer, he slowly lifted his hand and stuck out his thumb. A bad feeling settled in my gut. I kept driving, didn't slow down, didn't look back. But as I passed, I swear to God, I saw him grin. Not just a normal smile, a wide, unnatural grin that stretched too far, like he knew something I didn't. 15 minutes later, I checked my mirrors, and my heart stopped. He was there, standing on the side of the road again. Same spot, same crooked grin, like I had never passed him at all. I hit the gas. The highway stretched out in front of me, empty and endless. For the next half hour, I kept checking my mirrors, half expecting to see him again. But he was gone, or so I thought. Then my radio crackled. A voice, low, distorted, cut through the static. You should have stopped. My hands tightened around the wheel. The CB had been silent all night. I grabbed the mic. This is Rig 271. Who's out there? Nothing. Then, a laugh. Soft. Wrong. Like it wasn't coming from the radio, but from inside the cab. I turned my head slowly. My breath caught in my throat, because in the reflection of the windshield, I saw him, sitting in my passenger seat, still grinning, still watching me. I slammed on the brakes, but the second the truck stopped, he was gone. I sat there, breathing hard, my pulse hammering in my ears. The cab was empty, the door was locked, but the air felt wrong, heavy, like I wasn't alone. I kept driving, didn't stop, didn't check the mirrors, but the uneasy feeling never left. It followed me, hung in the air like a shadow I couldn't shake. Then, 3 hours later, I pulled into a truck stop, and that's when I saw it. Something that made my blood turn to ice. There was a flyer on the bulletin board, a missing persons notice, and on it was a picture of the hitchhiker. Same face, same dark hoodie, same too wide grin. But the date at the bottom? It said he had gone missing in 1984. I don't drive that route anymore. I don't stop for hitchhikers, and I never check my passenger seat at night, because I know he's still out there, still waiting, still grinning, and next time, he won't wait for me to stop. I had been on the road for nearly 10 hours, hauling a load through rural Kentucky. It was foggy as hell, the kind of thick mist that swallows the road and makes your headlights feel useless. The highway was dead, no other cars, just me and the endless white fog. That's when I saw the detour sign. Road closed, detour left. I slowed down, squinting through the windshield. My GPS didn't show a detour, but sure enough, there was a narrow road cutting into the woods. No streetlights, no signs, just a dark, winding path. Something about it felt off, but I was too damn tired to care. I turned, and that was the biggest mistake of my life. The second my tires hit that road, I felt it. The air got heavy. The temperature dropped. The fog seemed thicker now, swirling unnaturally around my truck. The road was too empty, too quiet, like the world outside my cab wasn't real anymore. I kept driving. The road twisted and turned, snaking through the woods with no end in sight. Something about it felt wrong, like I had been driving in circles, like the road wasn't letting me leave. My GPS was completely useless. No service, no signal, just a blank screen. That's when I saw the sign, a rusted, bent street sign on the side of the road. No town name, no exit number, just 3 words, barely visible through the rust. No stopping, ever. A chill ran down my spine. What kind of sign was that? And why the hell did it feel like a warning? I checked my mirrors. Still nothing but fog and trees. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Like something was out there, watching me, waiting. Then my radio crackled. For the first time all night, sound filled the cab. But it wasn't music. It wasn't a trucker's voice. It was breathing. Slow, raspy, coming through the speakers. Like someone was right there in the cab with me. I grabbed the CB mic. My hands clammy. This is Rig 302. Anyone out there? Silence. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, "Don't stop." My blood ran cold. I slammed the radio off, my hands shaking. The air in the cab felt thicker now, like something was pressing in on me. The fog outside the windshield twisted and swirled, almost like it was moving on its own. Then, I saw something in the road. A shape. A person. I hit the brakes. The truck groaned as it slowed to a crawl. The figure stood right in the middle of the road. A woman, barefoot, wearing a long gray nightgown. Her hair was hanging over her face. She wasn't moving, wasn't blinking, just standing there, waiting. I reached for my horn, but the second my hand touched it, she lifted her head, and I swear to God, she smiled. I hit the gas. I wasn't waiting to see what she wanted. The truck roared forward, tires screeching against the pavement. But the second I passed her, she was gone, just vanished into thin air, like she had never been there at all. I drove faster. My pulse pounded in my ears. I didn't care if I was going too fast for these roads. I just wanted off. Then, I saw another sign. The exact same rusted sign I had seen miles ago. No stopping. Ever. I slammed the brakes. This wasn't possible. I had been driving straight. I hadn't made any turns. And yet, I was right back where I started. Like the road was looping. Like it wouldn't let me leave. My breath came fast, panicked. Then the radio crackled again. And this time, the voice wasn't whispering. It was laughing. Low, raspy, wrong. And then it said, "You should have kept driving." A shadow moved in my mirror. I spun around, my heart hammering. And there, standing just outside my passenger door, was the woman, still smiling, still watching, still waiting. And she wasn't alone anymore. Behind her, in the fog, dozens of figures stood, lurking in the mist, watching my truck, waiting for me to stop again. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I slammed the gas. The truck lurched forward, roaring down the road. Faster, faster. The fog rushed past me, shapes flickering in the mist, figures moving in the darkness. Then, up ahead, I saw lights. A real road, a real exit sign. I barreled toward it, and the moment my tires hit the highway, everything went silent. The road behind me was empty. The fog was gone, like it had never been there at all. I didn't stop until I reached the nearest truck stop. I sat in my cab, hands still trembling. I checked my GPS. That detour road wasn't on the map, like it didn't exist, like it never had. But I know the truth. There are roads you're not supposed to turn onto, and if you do, you might not make it back. I was driving through West Texas, a long stretch of empty highway cutting through endless desert. It was just past 2 a.m., and the road was dead quiet. No headlights, no taillights, just me, my truck, and the crackling hum of my CB radio. Then, through the static, I heard a voice. It was faint at first, barely a whisper beneath the noise. But as I listened, the words became clearer. "Can anybody hear me?" The voice was shaky, weak, like whoever was speaking was barely holding on. I grabbed the mic. "This is Rig 408. Who's out there?" Silence. Then, "Please help me. I don't know where I am." A chill crept up my spine. I scanned the highway. Nothing but darkness. "Where are you?" I asked. "What mile marker?" The radio crackled. Then, "I don't know. It's too dark. I think I crashed." My hands tightened on the wheel. "All right, stay calm. What can you see?" The static deepened. Then the voice whispered, "The road. But it's wrong. It keeps changing." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean, changing?" No response. Just dead air. Then, a noise I'll never forget. A sound that wasn't human, like something breathing. Low, wet, too close to the mic. I turned the radio off. I drove in silence, eyes locked on the road, heart pounding. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe it was just radio interference. Then my radio turned itself back on, and a voice, clear, steady, right in my ear. "I can see your lights." I slammed the brakes. The truck lurched forward, tires screeching against the pavement. I looked around. Nothing. Just empty road. Empty desert. I grabbed the mic again, my hands shaking. Who the hell is this? Static. Then, barely above a whisper, "I think I was you." My chest tightened. I checked my mirrors. Checked them twice. Still nothing. But that feeling, that crawling, gut-wrenching feeling, like someone was in the cab with me, watching, waiting. I needed to get off this road. Now. I floored it. The highway blurred beneath my wheels. The CB hissed and crackled, but I didn't touch it, didn't breathe, didn't speak. Then, the headlights flickered. For half a second, the road went completely black. And in that moment, I saw something in the windshield. A reflection. A figure sitting in my passenger seat, grinning. I swerved onto the shoulder, tires kicking up dust and gravel. By the time I turned, it was gone. The seat was empty. The CB crackled again. Soft, distorted, like something was crawling through the static. Then, clear as day, "You should have stopped for me." I slammed the radio off, refused to touch it again. I didn't stop driving until I saw lights in the distance. A truck stop. Real, bright, safe. I pulled in, killed the engine, and sat there, shaking. The cab was silent. The radio was off. For the first time in hours, I let myself breathe. Then, as I reached for the door handle, the CB switched back on, and the voice, right next to my ear, whispered, "We're not done yet." I don't use my CB anymore. I don't drive through West Texas at night. And sometimes, when I'm lying in my sleeper, just about to drift off, I hear it, that same low, broken whisper, calling my name, waiting, listening. And I know, it's still out there, looking for another driver, another voice to answer, another way back. I was driving through the middle of nowhere in Nevada, just endless desert and highway stretching out in every direction. It was the kind of night that made you feel like you were the only person left on Earth. Then, I saw the headlights. At first, it looked like just another group of cars ahead of me, but as I got closer, I noticed something strange. All three vehicles were identical, black SUVs, driving in a perfect single-file line. And their license plates? They each had only one number, in perfect order. A chill crept up my spine. I had no idea why, but something about those SUVs felt wrong, like I wasn't supposed to see them, like they weren't supposed to be noticed. I slowed down, keeping a safe distance behind them. For miles, I followed. They never changed lanes, never adjusted speed, just kept moving. Then, out of nowhere, they turned. The SUVs veered off the highway onto a dirt road, a road that wasn't there. No signs, no mile markers, no indication that anything existed in that direction. Just endless desert. But the cars knew exactly where to go. The moment their tires hit the dirt, they killed their lights. And within seconds, they were gone, swallowed by the night. I slowed down as I passed the turnoff, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles went white. I stared out into the darkness. There was nothing there, just miles of emptiness. No tail lights, no dust, no sign that the SUVs had ever been there at all. My pulse thumped in my ears. I don't know what came over me, but for a second, I almost followed them. Then my radio crackled. A voice, low, distorted, cut through the static. "Keep driving." I jerked in my seat. The CB had been off. I hadn't touched it. I grabbed the mic with a shaky hand. "Who is this?" Nothing. Just silence. I flipped through the channels. All dead. The voice was gone. I exhaled, shaking my head. Maybe I was just tired. Then I checked my mirrors, and my blood ran cold. Because behind me, on the side of the road, there was a man, standing perfectly still. I didn't stop. didn't slow down, but as I passed, I got a clear look at him. He was dressed in black. No coat, no bag, no flashlight. Just standing there in the cold desert night. Watching, waiting. His face wasn't right. Too pale, too smooth, like a wax figure. I drove faster, checked my mirrors again. He was gone. I didn't stop for another 2 hours. When I finally pulled into a rest stop, I sat in my truck, gripping the wheel, trying to steady my breath. I knew something was wrong. I had never felt this kind of fear before. It wasn't just that I saw something strange. It was the feeling that whatever I had seen me too. That I had noticed something I wasn't supposed to. And now, they knew. I checked my CB one last time before heading inside. The channels were still silent. Then, as I reached for the door handle, the radio crackled, and that same distorted voice whispered, "Forget what you saw." I left Nevada the next morning. I don't take that highway anymore. And sometimes, late at night, I think about those black SUVs, where they went, what they were doing, who they were waiting for. And I always wonder, what would have happened if I had followed?